Welcome, everyone, to the Hail to the District podcast. I'm Rajan, he's Patrick, and we figured that given how much of a premium wins have been at this season for the Washington Redskins, we should probably reconvene to break down the Redskins win over the Detroit Lions yesterday and perform something of a quick state of the team check over the last of where they are right now, given this miserable season, especially how much has transpired over the last month or two. We figured we should probably get together and talk about things, even though it may not be that enjoyable to do so. But that notwithstanding, Patrick, your thoughts after yesterday's win over Detroit?
Yeah, just win, baby. I don't think I've ever been more frustrated after a win. I wanted us to go 1-15 at this point.
Yes,
just to lock in Chase Young. But I think I have a lot of thoughts in the game. I would like to apologize to anybody that listened to this podcast at the beginning of the year, because Dwayne is kind of meh. Apke is a terrific special teams player. Basically everything I said
is all wrong. Everything
is all wrong. We'll get to the game, I guess, but when Apke made a stop on the as the gunner, he was the first guy down there every single play, I was laughing. I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Like the one bright spot we have is Trustway and Apke as a gunner. But I don't know. I think there's things to talk about. I think it was a oddly fun game to me to watch, just because Dwayne's out there and you can basically pick everything apart that he did. But it was nice to win. I did want us to go 1-15, but it was nice to end the day and just be like, oh, well, at least we won a game. But it does kind of suck because I don't want the Giants to draft ahead of us. I think that hasn't been talked about yet much nationally.
Yeah,
I do not want them to get Chase Young, and they're the same record as we have now.
We're gonna get to that because you and I are 100% on the same page. But yes,
yeah.
So let's start with Haskins, because I think that's obviously the topic on everyone's mind. The final stat line was obviously not pretty. It was 13 of 29 for 156 yards, 0 touchdowns. We are now how many games without an offensive touchdown, considering the only score came on Steven Sims' fumble that turned into a kick?
We scored 2 last week. But
sorry,
we've only scored
– home offensive touchdown, rather, right?
I don't know, 2015.
Yeah, it's something in that neighborhood.
I don't think we scored Alex Smith either, so it doesn't really matter.
Haskins was sacked 3 times, finished with a QBR, which is a misleading stat in many cases. But
12, right? It
was 28 and a passer rating of 47. Now, that's pretty telling, considering passer rating can be rather generous in many cases. Passer rating of 47. It's funny. JP Finley of NBC's Washington or whatever they've rebranded themselves as lately.
Great mustache, by the way.
I've missed that one.
He's got a great mustache.
I really should have done a November stash. I'm really kind of mad at myself.
Still time.
Not doing a PETA one. I could probably give me a week.
Just start sniffing a lot of like wood and something, get some real manly, and just start pushing those hairs out.
Yeah, I look like a real Indian uncle after about like a few days. So like it's a double-edged sword when I do so.
Okay.
But Finley, he made a very astute tweet, which I think sums up Redskins Nation in general. And he said something, it was about 11 a.m. this morning. He goes, judging by Redskins Twitter, there are 2 distinct camps around Dwayne Haskins. One group thinks he's infallible, and the other already believes he can't play, right? And there's basically, after, however many games he started, there's no middle ground. And I think, in general, that kind of speaks to Redskins fandom. But, at the risk of being, cliche or whatever, there's obviously the middle ground. Okay, he got the win. It's the win in many cases one of the most meaningless, overrated stats in all of sports. That, well, he's a winner means absolutely fucking nothing, right? Like, it's just one of those things where you can justify it to make a really bad pick, and you can justify it why someone like Tom Brady is the greatest, although there's many other reasons why you could justify that. And I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but just being completely honest, right?
He's the GOAT.
He is, and I would have fought that for a long time, but I can't do that anymore. There's a lot of work to do. I just don't, there's no other way to put it. This is not a dig at Haskins. I think one of the things that we tend to forget, especially when we see early career success of guys like Patrick Mahomes, we see it for Lamar Jackson and all of these guys doing this stuff in year 2. There's still so much work to do with Haskins. And I think it's one of those things we it's the elusive obvious we tend to overlook because we just expect, given all of the backdrop of early season success for so many young quarterbacks, they're like, well, he should be throwing for 4,000 yards already. And I think while it's nice to see him pick up the win, while it's nice to get the feeling in there and wanting to do it again, while it's nice to see the exuberance he had after the win, I think more than anything else, it's like, yes, it's good. It's that we got it. It's a nice emotional boost for the team. We tend to forget that they're human beings at the end of the day, but this is a long-term continuum, and the fact that this fan base is so reactionary and so knee-jerk about literally every single throw he makes and every single thing he does and every single thing that comes out of his mouth, we are so focused on the trees and we tend to forget the forest as a result of it. And I think that's just the thing, that this is one chapter in a really, really, really long ass story that's still being written in terms of whatever he is going to be.
Yeah, the tweet was spot on. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because in my text there with my buddies that we love to call the Booze Hogs, we're all split behind it too. Two of them are like, he's a bust. And two of us are saying, well, 3 starts, let's stick it out. I'm in the stick it out world. I will say, though, there are things to point to that, like, I don't think we know if he's going to be a bust. I don't think we know if he's going to be really good. He's only started 3 games in the NFL. Hell, I mean, Aikman went 0-15 his rookie year, and he figured it out.
Aikman was awful his rookie year. People tend to forget the stories of quarterbacks who have really shitty. I mean, Drew Brees wasn't good for 3 or 4 years, and I'm not saying that anyone's going to be like this, but like I said, just in today's climate where we expect instant success at so many levels.
It's because of Twitter. It's because of things like
100%.
Sunday. It's because Sunday NFL Ticket, you can watch every game. So everyone, it's no longer like you're stuck on your team and you watch that team. You can watch everybody now. So it's instant gratification, and you have guys like, we'll just use Mahomes and Lamar just because they're the 2 right now, but they're amazing. But I'll get to the reason I think they're amazing second. My thing with Haskins right now is he's got a long, long way to go.
He does.
But I do generally think, the talent is he oozes talent. I compared him to Jason Campbell in the last game because I feel like he throws the ball 100 miles an hour at every single target rather than trying to put some sort of touch on the ball.
Yes.
There's 2 plays, or really 3 plays that stuck out to me. The third one I was going to say was he had Sprinkle coming across the middle and he threw the ball 100 miles an hour, and Sprinkle sucks. That's the way he was catching the ball. His worst pass of the game was, at least my opinion, I thought it got overlooked. I haven't seen anyone really talk about it. Is a simple check down to Geis, and it was in the 3rd quarter. It was the first drive. It was probably the easiest throw in the world. I mean, you and I could have underhanded this thing to Geis, and he threw it.
And he sailed it.
Yeah, it was a terrible throw. I was like, what in the God are you doing?
Yeah.
So that throw, but then there's the throw you have to Harmon down the middle that we just missed on. If he could figure out, that was a 60-yard rope. Now, if he learns how to put a little touch on that ball, Harmon runs under it and scores a touchdown. So he's got a long way to go. His QBR sucked. He generally wasn't very good. His accuracy is a huge problem.
Yes.
And we can get to the whole, wasn't out there for the knee thing. But there are throws he makes where you think, wow, this guy is good. Mm-hmm. And whether you like to admit it or not, and granted the Lions gave us the game, Driscoll just gave us the game. But he led a 4th quarter comeback, and we didn't score any touchdowns, but he played his best in the 4th quarter, and that's what typically matters the most, right? So I think there's a long way to go. I think he needs to clean up his attitude a little bit, but he's also 20 years old or 22, however old he is. So that's going to change probably over time. But I'm not willing to give up on him. I think he'll be very good. Just it might take a long time.
Yeah, I think
hopefully our organization gives him the opportunity to be good, because I think the reason Jackson's so good and Holmes is so good is the organizations actually support him. So we'll see.
So it's interesting you bring up that point, because I want to address that there. That actually, the fact that Snyder came in and commandeered the draft process and said, That's wonderful that you guys are my scouts and my personnel department. It's wonderful. You guys have put in all this time in research and scouting everyone. I don't really care. We're drafting Haskins and do what you will, is actually a good thing in this situation. And why I say that is because he's going to have the longest leash of everyone, because the most important person in the organization is the one backing him. It's going to be one of those cases. It's kind of like, I don't dare bring up the name, but like how McLuhan and Jay Gruden had to go to Snyder and said, we can't play Griffin anymore, right? We can't do this. And I think at some point, I don't think Haskins is going to get there, or I really hope Haskins is not going to get there. But the fact that the most important person in the organization is going to give him the longest leash, just like Eric Bisciotti was kind of the one who's like, hey, I'm big on Lamar Jackson. I think he can do a lot of great things. He was one of the big, Eric Bisciotti. I'm confusing Eric DeCosta and Steve Bisciotti. Steve Bisciotti was the guy who was really pushing for the Ravens to draft Lamar Jackson in the 2018 NFL draft. And one of the reasons why they kind of acquiesced to that is because, well, he's the owner of the team. Going back to Haskins, I think one of the throws that gets overlooked, and it's easy because it's on the 2-minute drill, as you mentioned, that put them in position. But one thing that I watched, and it got a little overlooked and no one's really talking about it, but I thought it did, it showed a lot of Haskins in the good and the bad. Was it was 3rd and 5, it was 26 seconds left to go, right? So 3rd down and 5. And you could tell by the design of the play. I'm no Mark Bullock or anything like that. I can't tell you what the Redskins playbook looks like. I'm not even going to pretend to do it. But if you just looked at the way Haskins approach the play, there was Trey Quinn was kind of breaking out to his left, and he was running something kind of like an out and an up, right? So he's kind of faking like he was going to sit in the flat and make the corner kind of bite on the flat and then run past him on a go route, right? So that was clearly, you could see the way Haskins' eyes were going. That was his first read. Quinn did a really shitty job of selling the flat. He just kind of, he does. He really does. So Quinn kind of just shimmied over into the flat, did really nothing, and then started breaking, and the corner was draped all over him. And if Haskins was one of those one read and throw it, or not, and not really know what else to do, he would have either kind of forced it or just ate it or whatever, right? But you could see Haskins looked at it, saw that was not open, set his footwork back, and started looking downfield. And instead of trying to force the throw, like I said, to Quinn, he started hitting McLaurin down the middle on a crossing route. And the guy was actually draped on McLaurin, and he still hit him. And he put it in a position where it was just a little high for McLaurin, but it was only in one of those spots where McLaurin could have got it, right? And that put the Redskins on the 22, set them up for the field goal. But in that same throw, one of the reasons why it was this close to missing was because Haskins' footwork was kind of all over the place. And he did this like jump throw where, because for whatever reason, Eric Flowers was falling backwards and like almost fell into Haskins. And like Haskins did this weird jump throw and to get around him. Like, all right, that's fine. You're athletic. You could do that. But the thing that kind of illustrates is that Haskins got the arm strength. He has the ability, which is really hard, especially for spread quarterbacks, to look off his first read or to kind of process. And that's one of the things that I've always found with young quarterbacks. They're very one read and, oh shit, what the hell do I do now? And Haskins has shown flashes where he's like, all right, I can start to read the progressions, which again, if you played at Ohio State, you don't really have progressions because you're throwing at guys who are fucking wide open, right? And it's almost that always the case in that scenario. But at the same time, is the reason why his throws sail and the reason why he makes, some of these wild misses, his mechanics in many cases, and especially it's mostly his footwork, they're just off. And I don't know what it is and like how he's gotten away with it, but I think that's the real thing that if we're going to look over the next year or two, and it's going to take someone really, really focusing on him to kind of fix that part of his game. Was it the Jets game or I think it was the Jets game where that long throw he had to McLaurin and it got called back as a result of a penalty, right?
Oh, that was an outrageous throw.
Right? But even if you watch that throw, and I'm not trying to hate, right? He's like jumping up in the air and like he's 2 feet off the ground when he's releasing the ball. Like that's the one thing that just seems so strange to me. And I know he was rolling kind of or stepping up into the pocket, but like his footwork just seems so strange to me in so many cases. And I think that's one of those things where if it's going to take a long time to fix it, great, let's put in the time and investment. But that's the thing that's really going to help kind of fix everything around him. And you brought up the comparison of who'd you compare him to earlier? It was really astute. And I'm Campbell, right? To me, Dwayne Haskins really reminds me of Josh Allen in Buffalo. right? Physical talent, not nearly as mobile and athletic as Josh Allen, but so much raw potential, but kind of just wild with where he's throwing the ball. But if you can rein that in and work with him slowly and kind of get better and better. Allen's not great in year 2, but he's a lot better than most people thought he would be, present company included. And I can't think that's kind of my paradigm when I'm looking at Haskins, that you just see, to your point, there's these flashes of like, oh, there's interesting things he can really do. And then you're like, yeah, but what the hell is that?
Yeah, you mentioned the reads. That's one of the reasons why I'm like, I don't know if this kid's going to be a bust or not. He might be. I don't know.
Sure.
I think right now, if I had to predict, I'd probably go bust. But I don't think he necessarily will be, because I think it was a throw to Harmon, who, God, that guy's going to be awesome.
Hit on both the receivers this year, man.
I know. But the Fox cameras caught him, and he literally went from 1 read to 2 read to 3 read, and then the ball was out, all in the span of like 2 seconds. And his pocket presence is actually pretty good. Now it was kind of sporadic early on, especially against the Giants. It was bad against the Vikings. It's better against the Jets. I actually thought his pocket presence this past game was really good. I'm also obviously not Peyton Manning or anything, but he stood in there for the most part, took hits, kind of got through it. And, when the plays broke down, I think he had 20, 30 yards rushing, including that key first down in the game-winning drive. So there are things I think that we can work with, and I'm excited about. I think one of the things I'm excited about is every time he gets challenged with something, he seemingly gets better at it. Now, it could be something as simple as the playbook, right? But if you notice, we never had a single false start. Everyone was in, out. There was no miss. I think we had back-to-back false starts, but I don't really necessarily think they were on him in the first half. But the offense just ran a lot smoother. It's a small thing, but when he's trying to process everything, I think it's kind of a big thing for him. And which brings us down to the mechanics. Like, dude, if he had good mechanics and just hit McLaurin twice out of the 5 times he's wide open, I mean, that game wouldn't have been close.
No. McLaurin has just been so damn good, and I think that's one of the things. Like, he was beating Darius Slay, who was a top 15 corner in the NFL.
They were tweeting at each other today about it.
They're beating him like a drum all weekday, and I was doing something else for another piece I was kind of writing about, and I was trying to look at the top offensive rookies of this year, and I'm like, McLaurin's in the top 5 in terms of offensive rookies around the NFL. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find. In fact,
he's a stud.
Outside of Kyler and Josh Jacobs in Oakland, I really challenge people to find 1 or 2 more rookies that are playing better than McLaurin. But I cut you off.
No, I think you're right. McLaurin, there was a play in the 4th quarter, maybe late 3rd. There was the first drive when he beat Slay. I mean, he beat Slay left and right. And then obviously the missed touchdown in the 1st quarter, that throw was just my mouth dropped. I was like, how did you miss that throw? Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the NFL, there was a lot of really bad wide open throws this weekend. Russell, who's been the best quarterback in the league outside of Lamar, had a 15-yard little lob pass to wide open tight end. He threw it into the stands. I was like,
Jacob Hollister's on my fantasy team. I'm very well aware of it.
Yeah, I was like, what? But here's my take on Dwayne. I think there's something to work with. He has to clean up his mechanics. His inaccuracy is a problem. But having said that, I think if he fixes the accuracy and continuously gets used to this game speed, and most importantly, we got to hit on the coach. Whoever our next coach is, got to hit on it, because they have to work together and they have to work in tandem. So I think if we do the things, I think there's something there with Haskins for the camp that says, screw it, just draft a quarterback. Well, if Haskins sucks again next year, then we just tank for Trevor. So, calm down, team. I think we have to give him this year, and then next year we have to give him the resources to be good, and hope we hit, because drafting quarterbacks back-to-back years, that doesn't happen. And I know Arizona did it, but that doesn't happen.
The confluence of events for Arizona is so different. We don't have Cliff Kingsbury coming out and drafting a guy who he declared to be the best player in college football, coming out of school. I think that was a very, very unique situation, to your point. I'm going to go out and say a hot take. I'll talk about another day. I don't want to dive down this rabbit hole. Let's hypothetically say the Redskins finish with the number 1 overall pick. I'm not a Joe Burrow guy. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know everyone else in the world is just gushing.
We don't have to be, though. We just got to trade him. Just trade
Right.
that pick.
So I'm all about it. Yeah, like try to get some if it's not a Ricky Williams deal, just get some load of picks, anything, right? Just to move out of that.
Here's the deal. Let's say the Bengals might not win a game. I just looked at their schedule. They have Miami. I think Miami beats them. I don't think they're going to win a game. I'm going to say they get the first pick.
Although, to your point, I think Zach Taylor was about to lose the locker room, and that's why he had to put Dalton back in. They announced they're putting Dalton back in today over Ryan Finley.
Did they?
Yeah, because I feel like he was going to lose the team if he kept trying to play Ryan Finley. Like, I genuinely believe that. So there's a chance they may sneak a win or two somewhere. I haven't looked. I know they play Miami shortly, but yeah.
Well, regardless, let's say we're in that. Let's say I really don't want to get a third pick and the Giants get the second pick.
Yep.
We are, contrary to what Bruce thinks, we are not close by any means. And we're not just like one player and good. I want that pick more because it's a king's ransom for people who want, Burrow or whomever, or Tua, hopefully Tua, even though he's got the Bo Jackson.
I don't think it's me Tua. I think right now he's probably going to slip a little bit because of the injury. There's a long checkered history of injury. I think Justin Herbert's going to make his way up there as the process unfolds.
That guy can spin it. That's one thing that's cool about being on the West Coast is being able to watch Oregon, and that guy can throw the football.
Outside of this past Saturday, but yes.
Yes. But I want to trade that pick for a king's ransom. At the same time, I'm like, Chase Young is so good that I think you might have to just take him. The problem is I don't think we're one player away, and we don't have a second-round pick because of Haskins. Sweat's getting off easy here. That dude sucks. I mean, hopefully he'll be good because pass rushers tend to take a couple of years, but, like, dude, that whole game against the Lions, they doubled Kerrigan, and he was on an island, and he had one sack, and that sack was when they just didn't block him. Oh, he's so bad. Yeah. I hope he turns out good, but we need players, and I think that's why you trade back. But if we have a chance to take Young, I might do it.
I think Chase Young is the best pass rushing prospect since Khalil Mack in 2014. Yeah. I'm just going to say.
In that case, you take him no matter what.
You have to. The fear that you have right now that if we finish – so if the draft were today, we're actually number 4, if I'm not mistaken. I think Miami, the Giants, and the Bengals are ahead of us.
You got to trade that. You got to trade that pick because you
have to trade out of it. Because I'm sorry. I mean, I know – knowing as backwards as this team is, they're going to try to draft a tackle and be like, look, we found our Trent Williams replacement. And I'm like, that solves nothing. That is, you took 2 steps backward and now you took 1 step forward. You're trying to justify that you did something good. Like, that's an Ernie Grunfeld move if I've ever seen one in my life. Right. So
I forgot about Ernie.
Yeah. Right. So if they try to take, and I know there's like 3 good offensive tackles that they could potentially kick tires on the top 10. I wrote the piece on the HTTD site, which I believe firmly that if the draft were today, I think they'd go after Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy is excellent.
I saw that piece.
I watch a ton of Alabama just because of my wife, unfortunately. Judy's amazing. I think a lot of people compare him to Odell Beckham. I disagree with the comp. I know he's
Judy, McLaurin, and Hartman.
Woo! I know he's fucking crazy, but my comp for Jerry Jeudy is actually Antonio Brown. I think they're so similar in the way they play and their style of game and everything.
Is he as crazy as Antonio Brown?
No, from everything I understand so far, I doubt it. I don't think he's had that many hits to the head or hits of other things. But that's my comp for him. So I think Jeudy is incredible. I think the fact that he's just a little under 200 pounds might scare some people, but he is just his footwork, his route running, his hands just out. Well, hands are little.
They keep saying literally every report that comes out of fucking Ashburn is we need playmakers. They won't trade Trent because they're looking for a playmaker.
That's the thing, right, John? So as I mentioned that piece, like John Kyman, one of his podcasts, right, I think after the Jets game was like, look, the front office is very, very aware of the fact that they have nobody around Haskins. We have literally nothing at tight end. To your point, Davis and Jordan Reed's done. Let's just
we have the highest cap hit at tight end in the whole NFL,
and we get literally nothing out of it.
It's the worst position on the field every week.
And to the point where we're just playing 7 offensive linemen because we literally have nobody to play at tight end.
Bergstrom. That guy,
right? Yeah,
that guy fucking sucks.
Yeah, he screw him after kind of giving the Haskins who the fuck are you? And it's like, no, actually, Tony Bergstrom, who the fuck are you? You know, in the grand scheme of things.
Playing tight end for the Washington Redskins, and they're 1-9.
Bingo. There's McLaurin, there's Harmon, who are obviously rookies this year. P. Rich is a guy, he's going to be gone. I strongly doubt that guy's sticking.
I was wrong in this one too. I was excited about P. Rich. I was excited about Trey Quinn. I said Flowers was terrible. I was wrong in all of them.
I thought Sheriff was probably one of my favorite Redskins on the team, and that guy has been god awful this year. I mean, trash. I mean, it's perfect for us in terms of him trying to get a contract extension because we should pay him a ham sandwich right now from someone who doesn't like ham at all, right? Like that's what he's worth because he's been god awful this year. Like he's probably over the last handful of games been worse than Morgan Moses, and that's saying something considering the way Moses started the season.
I don't know. Moses. So my text thread I've been telling you about Booze Hogs. My buddy Chester came up with this thing called the stink meter. It's very, very simple fun. Morgan Moses doesn't even qualify.
He's not even able to get onto the meter.
He's awful. Oh, he's so bad. All right.
Circling back to Haskins, although so to finish the point of, I'm all in on Chase Young. I think we need a pass rusher. I would put all my eggs in the basket, and I would be very happy. And to your point, I would bet great money that if the Giants finished with the number 2 pick overall, they would take Chase Young without thinking.
Oh, that would be devastating.
And that's the worst thing. A, to miss out on him, but B, more importantly, watch him in the division, and C, for a team like the Giants, just no thank you at so many different levels.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, especially if we have Moses lined up in the right tackle again next year.
Yeah,
see you later.
But getting back to Haskins, you touched on it, and I think that's a really good point that you made. It's another double-edged sword, right? Like, he's definitely immature, and this is not a dog whistle about saying anything about him as a demographic or anything like that. There's just a certain immaturity, both in a positive way, like the giddiness that he shows in many cases, the emotions that he shows, the things that he does. He's a stupid 22-year-old, and I say that in the term of a stupid 22-year-old, not that he is stupid in so many cases. I thought the comment that he made after the game where they're like, well, you had a shitty game and then you played really well in the last drive. He goes, yeah, I'm a closer.
I'm a closer? Oh, it's terrible.
I'm like, bro, like, that's not the comment to make. But I'm not crushing him in that sense. I think this is just, we're so used to guys being like having the swagger and coming out of a big name school and playing, and winning 10 games every year. Like, you just have that. And it's like, and you come in and it's like, you're not the, oh shucks, gee golly, I suck at everything and I need to do better type of guy. And like the bravado is good. You need that in many cases. That's how you become a pro athlete. But it was a little tone deaf. But I'm not slamming him. Again, this is just it's immaturity. The selfie with the fan. All right, it's funny, it's silly, it's stupid. There's whatever you want to call it, right? But like, it just goes to it. But I'm not saying that he is an immature twerp. He's not. We have an ongoing thread. We've evolved now into a Slack. But like one of my friends, I think after he tends to be the knee-jerk reactionary in our group. And I think it was after the Giants game, and he was like, so we just drafted Jamarcus Russell. And I'm like, no, dude, like he doesn't spend his time like shoving food in his face all week long. Like the fact that he's immature and stuff like that is great. But also on the other side, like the much documented video about him talking to his offensive lineman, like, what can I do better?
I like that.
So in him embracing Kevin O'Connell right after the game, there's clearly a level of I give a shit. And I think that is so important. Like, it's not just I'm here to collect a paycheck. You're not Baker Mayfield. We're like, look, man, I'm just about the commercials now. I already made my success in the NFL, right? Like, I think as bad as this is to say, I really like the fact that Haskins is getting his ass pounded this year. Because it also exposes him to like, hey, I got a long ass way to go and I got a ton of work to do on my own, as opposed to enjoying success too fast like Baker Mayfield. And I think that's just what it is. He's just drinking his own Kool-Aid too much in terms of Mayfield. So the fact that he is wired that way, all accounts, that he asks the right questions, he talks to the veterans, he wants to gets input on what he has to do better. All of those things, he's wired, quote unquote, the right way in those. And I think that gives me reassurance for all the things that he has wrong, that he does wrong, or that, he needs to fix. There's a commitment in terms of his intangibles to want to do so.
Yeah, I'm also pumped that he's attached to the hip, apparently, to Alex Smith. I mean,
yes.
Look at Mahomes. Mahomes is the first person to say, I have been successful in the NFL because of Alex Smith. He literally, every chance he gets, he talks about it. So there are things I agree with that. The missing so I didn't actually see him miss the knee. I was doing something else, and then I was like, oh, he led the fourth quarter drive. And my buddy just texted me. He's like, wait, why isn't Haskins on the field? And I was like, we talking bonehead. But I rewatched the games today. And when we come out for the knee. Fox is 0 seconds on the clock.
Yep.
So Haskins definitely thought the game was over.
Yes.
It
wasn't hot dogging or something like that. Like there was a legitimate miscommunication.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
All things standing, like don't do it again.
Yes.
I don't think it's as big of a deal as people want to make it out to be, though. Though I will say, it's like, come on, guy, that's just like 101.
Yeah, it's a talking point for the sake of being a talking point, but you should know better, 100%.
Yeah, and then I agree with you that I'm a closer line today, or yesterday, whenever it was, is like, dude, get over yourself. So I think there's a lot, but I also, to your point, the embrace with O'Connell, even Moses came in right after him and gave him a huge bear hug. And I think if he didn't give a shit, then he still would be struggling with the playbook. There's little things that he does that I do think you're right. Like he ran for that first down on the game-winning drive, broke the pocket, dove for the first down instead of sliding. If he slides, he gives himself up 2 yards short of the first down, dives, gets it. And then he gets up and you see his reaction and he is jacked up. And the part that I actually think was like, okay, the players actually do respond to you is Flowers came over, dapped him up, and was pumped. Flowers ran 10 yards down the field to pick him up. And I think the offensive line actually responded a little bit to him granted, what can you do to help? Probably know where your checkdowns are. There's a lot of stuff going in there. Moses had that, well, if they rush 5, there's only 5 of us. There's little things that go back and forth. But I think the team responded to him because I think you're right. I think they see that he cares and the work that he puts in. And he's an idiot. He's got to figure some things out and learn how to deal with the media. He should watch Bull Durham and see how Crash Davis talk to media so he figures it out. But, I think he's immature, but, not to harp on it, but I do think he cares. And that's why I think it's so important for us to get this coaching hire right, because if we do that, I think we'll be in good shape.
So let's
Bruce will be there, so we're fucked anyway. But
exactly.
We can help. We can help.
So there's Bill Callahan. He is what he is. I think the worst possible scenario could be Callahan staying, because that means we'd be mired in a 1730s offense.
Your boy from Burgundy blog is saying that there's a riff in the Ashburn because of it.
I hope there is. I genuinely hope there is, because I'm like, we can't do any more of this. I do believe that I firmly believe, and if you read between the lines from like some of Ben Standig's report on The Athletic and among other sources, where like if you read Kevin O'Connell, he's like, I'm doing the best I can do, but no one's listening to anything I really have to say. So I'm just going to be a good soldier and I'm going to put in whatever input I can to the game plan. And there are sprinkles, I think, I can't remember even who was calling the game for us on.
If you're talking about the O'Connell one, it was Ben Standing.
No, whoever was the stupid play-by-play or color analyst for the game itself. But they're pointing out like a couple of interesting. Was it Rondé Barber? I tend to tune those guys out. And they called out a couple of interesting play designs. I think there was that one swing pass where like that Wendell Smallwood, and God, I hate the fact that Wendell Smallwood is ever on the field, but that like Wendell Smallwood is like lined out, trips left, and they rolled over to the right side, and then they kind of ran like screen off to the right. Like there was some interesting play calls, right? And I think if we had if we allowed our innovative offensive coordinator to innovate in the offense, that there would be more, there would be things that we could enable that would make Haskins better, and there would just be a more interesting dynamic offense, as opposed to this mixology of O'Connell wanting to do one thing and Callahan wanting to do something straight out of this, the Bronze Age. The
most frustrating part about that is the Redskins know they have something special in O'Connell, and like, let's be real, who knows? We don't really know how good O'Connell really is. He could be really bad for all we know. I think Redskins fans have latched onto him because of McVay. They think we don't want to lose another McVay. That being said, that I read the article in The Athletic the same way as you did. It's like you have a head coach who says, I'm more worried about rush attempts than yards. And you have O'Connell who comes more from Jay Gruden's side where he wants to throw the ball. So you see our passing game, the concepts are actually pretty interesting. But if we're still rushing the ball 60, 70% of downs on first down with Adrian Peterson, like it doesn't really matter.
The analytics are showing more and more in football that it's like play action. For instance, the number one revelation of analytics is that play action works regardless of how many times you run the ball. You could literally not run the ball the entire game and play action still works. So it's not the whole adage of the run sets up the pass is one of the biggest fallacies that's been developed in football, right? And
Don't tell that to Chris Russell.
Exactly. And then even people like Cliff Kingsbury have come into the league and said, look, the run is a I don't want to say change up, but the run is a tool to be used in the context of the offense. Shouldn't necessarily be the centerpiece of the offense. Now, there are some teams like the Buffalo Bills, like the Baltimore Ravens, who still make it a centerpiece of their offense. And if you're fully geared towards that, that works. But we're not geared towards that. We don't have that type of offense. We're not necessarily built that way. Dwayne Haskins is not Josh Allen. Dwayne Haskins is not Lamar Jackson. Like, we're not really built for that type of offense. We don't have the staple of running backs, even with Geis and Peterson. Like, it's just not there. We sure as shit don't have the offensive line right now. Interesting stat that jumped out to me, and I tweeted this on the Hail to the District Twitter, was that on fourth down aggressiveness, the Redskins are the second least aggressive team in the NFL in terms of fourth downs that are considered makeable. The Ravens are number one. Ravens are number one. The Colts are number two. You'll never believe who's actually dead last behind us. This was the most surprising one.
Patriots?
It was McVay and the Rams.
Really?
It was the least aggressive team on fourth down, which I think kind of tells you about his trust in Jared Goff and the fact that Todd Gurley has an arthritic knee and no one's really talking about it.
Goff sucks.
Yeah. Well, their offense, I think that's another one. Their offensive line has been hot, steaming garbage this year. And it's the story that no one wants to talk about at all. But Todd Gurley has one knee, and the other knee is going to fall off in the next year or two. And just no one wants to acknowledge this. Like, he's 27 years old, if that, and he's already on a load management thing because, he's basically bone on one knee, which is not exactly great if you're a running back. But nope. I think to your point, the coaching hire is going to be immensely important. A few names are starting to percolate. Two that have come up. Eric Bieniemy was the hot name about a couple of weeks ago. I think that's a thing still. It remains to be seen at the end of the day what happens. I would prefer him in some cases because I feel like he's more of an organizational CEO type and he could hire people. There's a chance he could even try to keep O'Connell around potentially and just kind of let them run their own fiefdoms in terms of offense and defense. Todd Bowles' name is picking up a lot of steam lately. I'm not quite as knee-jerk no as you are.
I'm never going to put the video up, but for everyone who's listening, I just shook my head immediately.
I think he's a little milquetoast, admittedly, but I think if he had a guy who can kind of run the offense and let someone like run the offense independently and he focuses more on the defense, like a reverse Joe Gibbs, if you will, I think there's some potential there. Although it's just another harkening back to the Redskins glory days, but there's the thing that Todd Bowles is close with Doug Williams. The point is that they need to have somebody who's going to be focused entirely on Dwayne Haskins' development, but not myopically. Like, it's just you gotta. I hate to use this word because it's of the joke that Bruce Allen made out of it, but instilling the right culture around Dwayne Haskins.
Hey, we got a damn good culture.
Damn good culture. The culture is damn good.
One name I've seen floating around, which I didn't realize how successful he's been as a coach, is Jim Caldwell.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't he was the offensive coordinator when Flacco led the Ravens to the Super Bowl. He had all those really good years with the Lions, and I feel like if you can win in Detroit, you're kind of like us. You can win anywhere. And he is the kind of guy that would probably be a CEO / I'm going to run my ship. Maybe to your point, maybe he keeps O'Connell, but he'd be more that CEO type.
Yes.
But then again, he's also probably 70 at this point.
Caldwell's only problem is that he's painfully unsexy in terms of the sizzle that he'll bring. That's the only downside with him.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what we need. We just need someone to win. Although if Bruce Allen leaves, I don't care who we hire as coach. We could be 0-16. I'll be excited. But I will say, here's my thing with coaching. This is going to be a little bit of a change up for you. So it's no secret that Minuski's the worst defensive coordinator in the world. At least I think he is. Him and Joel Barry can duke it out for who I hate more in terms of defensive coordinators. And I think this week was a little bit of a showcase as to why he's such a terrible coordinator. For starters, Norman gets benched, right? And we can talk about that if you want, but everyone saw coming. He's just not very good. And basically, he's playing a little bit out of position, I guess, but regardless, nothing's really happening with him on the field. And then Moreau moves to the outside, which is where we drafted him to play and where he has openly said he's more comfortable playing, and he has 2 picks. One thing this guy can do is run, right? That dude, if that pick he had down the sideline, he was running stride for stride with whoever the ball was thrown to, interception. Then he read it at the end of the game, picked off. So he had 2 picks. If a player is that comfortable playing on the outside, why is he playing in the slot? If Moreland is openly said he'd rather play in the slot, why is he playing on the outside? You have these 2 like wires switched. I don't understand how it takes you 10 games to figure that out, especially because Moreau's been here for 3 years. So we need a coach who like gets his players and schemes to his players. I'm tired of, the scheme didn't work today. I need coaches who know what the hell they're doing. That's my little rant on the defense, because they actually played well, and I think it's because players were in better position to succeed.
I'm trying to look through every NFL team right now and run through my Rolodex. I can't find anyone worse than Minuski, where I'm like, yeah, that guy's definitively worse than Minuski.
No, it sucks.
I was trying to challenge that premise, and I can't. I really can't.
What was the last time? I mean, we were actually a little more creative this past week, but I think it was Craig Hoffman or JP Finley, one of the 2. They were like, the Redskins rush 4 a lot. The Redskins never get home when they rush 4, ever.
But they keep rushing 4.
But they keep rushing 4, and we just hope that our Allen's really talented, Payne's really talented, but it's still 4 against 5, and a lot of times 4 against 6 if the running back's in there. So even though these guys are so great, you're still relying on them to win one-on-one every single play. You have to create pressure. Collins is a great safety in the box. He's proven that this year. Bring him. He's a freaking missile. Get creative. Do stunts. Do something. It's just so hard to watch when you just see this down lineman every single time. And it doesn't get creative. It's the same thing every week, and we get torched. And it's just I'm so tired of it.
I think it's been alluded to in many cases, but I think, we know for a fact that we are awful at third down, stopping anyone on third down.
We're historically bad.
I was going back through this. Do you know we've never led in any game in time of possession in any of our 10 games this year? We've never finished the game with having the ball more than the other team. The other team averages, I ran the math actually on this. It's just under 34 minutes per game, which sounds like it's 50-50, but that actually makes a huge difference if you sit and think about it. They're having the ball, 10 to 15% more than we are. So yeah, and I think that's just because the fact is we can't get off the field. And I mean, how many games, especially early on when we harbored false hope, where did we have our backs broken, especially in the third quarter, right? Because we just can't get stops. I mean, it could be 3rd and 43 for all it matters, and they're still going to be able to get off the field because, we still wouldn't be able to get off the field because, Greg Minuski. And I know the defense has played slightly better since the change at head coach, but it's still a bottom 10 defense in terms of the pass and the run. So, it's a shit tackle by any other name.
Think about it this way. Think about how bad Mitchell Trubisky is. Just think about how bad he is.
Yeah.
Now, they have a receiver on their team. I forget his name at this point, but had 12 catches in his whole career coming into the Monday night game with us. And he had 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
We made Mitch Trubisky look like the number 2 overall pick that he was.
He looked like Steve Young. Let's just call it a spade, right? That was one of the most abominable things I've ever seen.
I wish we played the Ravens just to see what Lamar would do to us.
Trubisky couldn't throw the ball into the ocean if he's standing on the beach, and he had 230 yards and 3 touchdowns against us. It's unfathomable.
But we beat Josh Rosen-led Dolphins team,
mm-hmm.
and a dude Driscoll that was playing wide receiver for the Bengals 2 years ago. So that's all you need to know about our 2 wins in the NFL.
And we were a yard away from losing to the Miami Dolphins. Can't remember that. You talk about the Josh Rosen component, but
Fitz magic almost got us.
It was a bad play call and 1 yard away from losing that game.
I'm actually convinced they tanked that call on purpose.
I wouldn't put it past them. We said it before this season. That's the frustrating part, as we lamented over the first few games. That I won't call this defense star-studded by any stretch, but there are pieces. And the fact is, the team in general is the master jamming square pegs in the round holes, but that is nowhere more evident than on the defense. We are perpetually playing players out of position. And frankly speaking, I am not a defender of his, but I think one of the biggest reasons why Josh Norman has been such trash over here is because I don't think we've ever figured out the best way to leverage whatever talent he has. I mean, I think that's just a fact.
No, you're 100% right. We talk about this amongst my friend group all the time, how he's just criminally misused. It's criminal, like the way we use him. And like those times he does get beat, even when he came over to the Redskins, I don't know if you remember this, but like he only stayed on one side of the field and never followed the best receiver because like he was a zone corner and he locked it down. He's not a man-to-man corner because he's pretty good at coming up and jamming receivers, but when he plays off,
press corner.
Yeah, but when he's off, people get ahead of his team. They can run by him. He's not the fastest cornerback in the league.
He's not.
So
you put
we set him 10 yards back.
Yep.
And he gets burned because of it. And it's really frustrating. And I like part of me feels for him. Also, I'm also just kind of tired of him because he's so much money and he's not misused. So might as well move on. But as far as like that, I even think like this is. I don't know if this is a hot take. I don't know if this is a cold take. I don't know what kind of take this is. Even though Ryan Kerrigan is only 2 sacks away from becoming the Redskins' all-time leader in sacks, I think he's misused. We have a 3-4 – he's a 4-3 end, in my opinion. His hand should be in the dirt, setting the edge. That's what he is. Instead, we have him freaking dropping back and covering like Darren Sproles in the flat.
If Ryan Kerrigan is ever dropping back in coverage, something is very, very wrong. And that's not –
It happens every game. It happens every game. I just like – I don't think if you can tell I'm already at a loss because it happens every week. And now we have Sweat, who's this physical freak, and we can't use him. We don't have we have no way of untapping what he can do.
I think the same goes for Ryan Anderson. I think Ryan Anderson's talented. He has his flaws. And if you want so Ryan Anderson's one, I think we've never figured out fully what to do with him because there's a disconnect between McLuhan drafting him and whatever the coaching staff was at the time, whether it was Barry or whether it was we'd made the switch over to Manusky. They don't know how to use him. My argument still be that we should put 10 pounds on him and play him as a defensive end because I think that's probably his better position. He's too big and he's too bulky to be an outside linebacker, or he's a 4-3 Sam linebacker. But if you want, there's no more damning evidence about our inability to maximize the talents of our players than Preston Smith in Green Bay.
Oh, right? He's even come out and said it's because of the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
He's 10 sacks? Did he have a sack last night?
He's been an absolute monster over there. To no surprise to anyone. He was a first-round pick talent. We drafted him, I believe, as 37th overall. Second
round, yeah.
Yeah, something right in that general neighborhood. Maybe it's in the early 40s. I can't remember if we traded back, whatever it was. And yeah, he walks and he all of a sudden, is playing at a near Pro Bowl level, whatever that means. And as you said, came out and said, like, what's the difference this year? It's like they know how to use my talents. I mean, how much more candid do you need to be?
It's funny that McLuhan has since gotten some shit about his draft classes, and I think a lot of it stems from the fact that he drafted Doxson and Sua.
Sua was the big one.
Yeah,
Dotson,
so
yes.
You got two pretty big misses on your record there. But if you look at his first class, he took Scherf, Preston Smith, and Crowder 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. All three of those guys are good. Scherf hasn't been great this year, but he's going to get paid. Smith is turned into a borderline all-pro player. Not quite, but, to your point, he's going to make the Pro Bowl. And then Crowder is going to lead the Jets in receptions by miles, and our offense misses him big time. Now we're dealing with frickin' Trey Quinn, who is terrible, and Sims should play over. But the moral of the story is, I don't think people realize how good Crowder really was when he was in that slot position for us. And healthy. Being healthy was important, and he not very good at returning punts. But we had no one else to return punts anyway, so it didn't matter.
We all expect general managers to all of a sudden, if you're a really good general manager, you're hitting on every single one of your pick. But let's just finish this Scott McLuhan had shitty drafts narrative, right? 2015, you said it. Sheriff, Preston Smith, Jamison Crowder, and Kaishan Jarrett in the 6th round, right? Those were solid picks. Austin Reiter, if I'm not mistaken, was our 7th round pick. I believe is still in the league and he's still playing at the moment, right?
Starts.
he starts, right? So it's not like that was a shitty pick. Did he miss on Matt Jones? Yes, he missed on Matt Jones. All right, we're not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. That was a terrible pick. Looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. Couldn't hold on to the ball. Fine. So that was 2015. Martrell Spate was fine. He missed on Ari Kwanjo, but Kaishan Jarrett, if it wasn't for the freak injury, he was another good player. Josh Dodson, moving on to 2016. McLuhan's missed that. He's admitted he missed because he didn't realize what was between Dodson's ears. He saw the physical talent. He thought he had everything he needed. Same thing could be said about Sua Cravens. But think about that. Kendall Fuller was in that draft. Nate Sudfeld, who is still in the league. Keith Marshall, who was a 5-star recruit, just obviously blew out his knees, but at the 7th round pick, you could have done a lot worse. And then Ioannidis, we won't give him credit because we realize that was more of a J pick in general. Right?
Love Knights.
2017, Jonathan Allen. Now, this is when they dismissed him, but Jonathan Allen, Ryan Anderson, Fabian Moreau, Monte Nicholson. Well, I don't want to touch Monte Nicholson. Chase Roulier and Josh and Jeremy Sprinkle, the guy who likes to steal things, and Joshua Holsey actually in the same class, and Josh Harvey Clemens, right? But Jonathan Allen fell into their laps because of bullshit draft night stuff. Ryan Anderson was a good player. Fabian Moreau, until he tore his pec, was a first-round talent. Samaje Perine, good player, just not really meant to play in the NFL because he's big and strong, and that's really about it. And then 2018 was really the first draft without him, which is, when we yielded Jerron Payne, Darius Geis, and Jerron Christian. And I don't know if Jerron Christian is going to make it, frankly.
Why did he start and then not play the rest of the games? Has that been like Donald Pinn's terrible? He was good. Christian. I know, but like Donald Pinn's not going to be here next year. Christian will be. We might as well play him.
I feel like they're going to address that position.
Oh, I definitely think they will. And they'll do it by trading the best left tackle in football to get picks so we can get a left tackle.
Right.
McLuhan, I think you're right. Everyone expects these draft picks that new GMs make to be like, we're going to hit on 7 picks and all of a sudden our team's going to be great. He hit on a few good ones. But I think what McLuhan did is, and you kind of, playfully touched on this earlier, but that sounded weird. The culture aspect of it, McLuhan's established a culture of winning. He was on the field. He was
football players.
I don't know if you remember this, but like there was a moment when Breland like blew up in a meeting at Jay and stormed out, and it was actually McLuhan who brought him into his office to calm down. And who hated that?
BA. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then obviously I sent you the article, but it was sent to me about Trent Williams being like, Scott McLuhan saved this franchise. And lo and behold, 2 years later, he's gone. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it definitely sounds like he had probably some alcohol problems, etc. I'm
going to disagree with that. I think that was a total smear. I think it was a total smear job. I think
even though we won the grievance.
But the thing is that maybe
I don't know. I don't know. I hope you're right. By the way,
I think somebody got they caught him with he might have had 2-3 beers instead of 2 or 4 beers instead of 2 one night, and they used that.
He went and played putt-putt with Danny and Bruce, filmed the whole thing.
They did Jay Gruden dirty, right? Like, come on, leaking that video of him doing the beatnik thing on the middle of the street and with the girl right before they fired him. Like, come on. And people reporting this video is 2 or 3 years old, so they had it and they went ahead and leaked it at a strategic time. Like, come on. Like, it was a total smear job. This is our MO. This is what we do.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Now, Trent
Williams. With the whole, we had informed you had cancer years ago. You're just too stupid to get it checked out again. Like, this is our MO. We smear the guy before we push him out the door.
Yeah, the J videos are hilarious. I told you drinking beers with that guy would be awesome.
It really would be.
But I like. To your point about missing on the draft picks, hitting on the draft picks, but the football players thing, I think keeps coming back to me. He had that tan suit. He was on the 20-yard line, like he was playing in the game. The players respected him. He was a scout. I mean, that's what he did. He just loved football.
Yes.
And what did we do with his 2 years? We had winning records in both years, and we haven't had back-to-back winning years since Gibbs. I don't think before that.
Yep.
Or Gibbs won.
No, we went back in Gibbs too.
No, I think we went 6-10 playoffs, 6-10 playoffs.
Yep.
And as soon as he leaves, like the thing just goes to shit. And it started like with the Alex Smith signing. It was a bad signing. It was, going and signing Mark Sanchez to play football for us. And then I think the most malpractice thing he's ever done is, and this is saying a lot because there's a lot of things, is drafting Dwayne Haskins and then alienating Trent Williams, who's the guy that's supposed to protect him on his blind side. So you're literally setting this guy up for zero success. Not to mention not giving Jay a contract extension or firing him, and then firing him 5 games into Haskins' rookie year to let him play for Callahan. Like, we have set this kid up to fail, and it all starts with Bruce. I don't know how we got here, but I fucking hate him. My wife's laughing because she knows how much I hate him.
He's the most, political aspirations aside, or political discussions aside, he's the most hated man in Washington. Even in fact, regardless of what style.
He's more hated than Dan. That's hard to do.
I genuinely believe that. I do. Because I will make no apologies for who Dan Snyder is as a human being, because I think he's as vile as they come. But Snyder has done, in certain instances, shown some level of compassion, like in Sean Taylor's passing, even with some of the stuff about Trent Williams, like in going and getting
Trent's come out and is like, no, he's still my boy.
Right. And there's many cases where, he's still, Alex Smith still seems to hold him in good regard.
Sits in his box every game.
So I don't think Snyder is as reviled. And I don't think you'll find anybody in that organization who's, we joked about that comment that Adrian Peterson made, who's going to be a proponent of Bruce Allen. Like, I think he's universally loathed among everyone.
Speaking of Ben Standing Athletic, he wrote an article about what scouts said about Bruce Allen, and it's wildly entertaining because everyone just rips Bruce Allen. They're like, yeah, and then he's also ranked the least trusted GM in the league by, I forget who, CBS maybe. It's like I just don't understand. But I know we always end up on this topic. It still baffles me this guy still has a job. At this point, I'm kind of like, wow, good for you.
I can't. I think it was Lock and Four who said that. No, it was Jake Glazer who said that the only reason around because he's a Coors and Wings buddy. That's it. He's Vinny Serrato 2.0. Let's just call.
Make me your core. Make your Coors and wing guy. You guys will be getting cut so fast.
Yeah, right. Exactly. There's 1,000 guys who are going to be your Coors in wings guy. And DC didn't have good wings. So
I think the biggest thing about, so we talked a little bit on the beginning about I don't know if we were talking about this on air, if we were talking about this before we started recording this, but the idea of the Caps won the Stanley Cup, DC went ape shit. The Nats won the World Series. I wasn't there, unfortunately, which is a big regret of mine, but I went ape shit. If the Redskins won the World Series or Super Bowl, what would happen, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the city's just lost so much interest because of Bruce. No one really cares. And kids grow up with these winning teams. And what I was getting to is the fact that the one team that's not winning is the Wizards, or outside of the Redskins. And what does Ted Leonsis do? He goes and talks to 100, famously now, 100 different people, from Obama to
Sashi Brown to among others.
Everybody. Why? Because he's trying to figure it out, and granted, he fucked up with Ernie for 16 years, but he learned from it.
His MO has always been to hang on to a guy for 5 years too long.
But he's in the post, he's doing interviews. He's like, hey guys, this one's on me. I'm trying to fix it. Here you go. Is Dan Snyder a robot? Has anyone ever seen him outside of a camera shot with him bribing somebody in his box at a game? He's never spoke to anybody. He's never come out and done anything.
The only thing I'll challenge about that is there's
he doesn't know what he's doing.
Did we no one ever knew, or I think the majority of people didn't know that he's close to Mike Tomlin, right? Or he has good relationships with certain key important figures around the NFL. And I'm not just talking stooges like Bob Kraft and Jerry Jones and things like that, right? He is respected.
I think the owners hate him.
Everything I've
read, the owners don't like him.
But he has certain, he's got some good relationships with some important people in the NFL. He's probably universally or mostly hated. But to where you're going, I don't think he thinks he's doing anything wrong.
Ugh, that's the problem.
And I think that's it to validate where you're going. I don't think he thinks anything wrong. He is the dog with the big beady eyes in the midst of the kitchen fire saying this is fine. He really is that guy. Or he is that mean.
That's a good comparison.
Right. And I think Bruce is too dumb and too drunk to know anything at any point in time. And I think the line that's been off-stated so many times that don't forget we were 6-3 at one point last year is the most blinding and damning thing about this organization. And it's something that everyone has pointed over and over again, that they're so diluted. And I think more than anything else, you have to remember that Snyder is still making 5 to 8% growth every single year on this franchise. So no matter what we're doing, the fact that the stadium is now 50% empty every game, I don't know where the fuck the money's coming from, but it's still coming. And we're not hitting
There's Yahoo literally just wrote an article about how the Redskins make their money. Because I was actually wondering it too. I was like, how do we even remotely get close to making money? So I didn't know this. In the NFL, the attendance goes 60-40. So what I mean by that is the home team only gets 60% of the proceeds, while the away team gets 40. So every game, no matter what, the Redskins are getting 40% of, whatever, at least 40% of. So like the home games, I don't think matter as much. The pricing, the concessions, etc. They have so much money based on sponsors. They're just raking in cash. And the TV contract alone with ESPN, CBS, Fox, all those pay off. It's exactly the same amount of money as the player contracts total. So like that's a wash completely. So they're probably losing a little money, but like all things considered, they're going to continue just boom, 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 boom. It's just going to continue to grow. Although I don't know why I harbor hopes and this will never happen, but when Snyder bought the team, one of his lines in his introduction press conference was, I forget the exact line, I'm blanking out, but essentially he says, I sell right before it's supposed to start to bust, right? He sells at the highest point. And I'm like, well, sell now because it's going to start coming down at some point, but it's not.
I don't know if you caught the news cycle about a week to 10 days ago when Jeff Bezos made the thing where he wants to buy an NFL team, and every single person in the city is like, take it, please take this, take the Redskins, please.
I'm in Seattle. I'm about to drive to his house and be like, dude, please save me. Save me.
Right. That made a lot of waves, and unfortunately it's not going to be a thing. And now I think over here, it's all just about the new stadium. That's all, wherever that's going to end up. That's all it is at this point. And then maybe after that, there's a chance. But there's some real under the ground rumblings that maybe Bruce isn't as safe as we think he is. But I don't think there's enough.
Yeah, how accurate is Burgundy and blog?
I don't even think that was Brent necessarily over there. I think there's been other whispers and stuff like that like don't completely despair. It's not 100% hopeless. But at the end of the day, there's nothing concrete to hang our hat on, because everything that we've heard from trusted sources is that nope, he's fine. And
that's part of the reason why you asked me my thoughts of the game, like right off. Like that's why I want to lose so badly. I want to embarrass ourselves every week just so Bruce is gone.
I had a coworker walk up to me this morning and goes, I can't believe the Redskins won. And I said, it was 100% Pyrrhic. It was a Pyrrhic win. Like it's a win that actually did very nothing. That did very little. In fact, might have been detrimental. One, from a draft position, and two, we can't sell hope. We cannot sell the illusion of hope. I ranted about this on one of our early season podcasts. I think the worst possible thing anyone who loves this franchise can do is support the status quo. I see all these Redskins fans on Twitter, and they're like, decked out in burgundy and gold and going to the game and drinking beer.
The hog farmers.
And just going to the game like I'm a true fan. I'm like, no, you're a fucking idiot. That's what you are. Like, you are supporting the situation that we're in right now, and in some fact, you're actually enabling it. You are literally handing crack to a crackhead and wondering why the crackhead is not getting better. That's what you're doing right now.
You're going all the way to Landover, Maryland to watch football games at FedEx Field, the worst stadium in the world.
I've always hated the idea that true fans support the team no matter what. No, true fans root for the best for the team and want to see the team succeed, not reward poor play and raging incompetence and even more raging corruption.
Well, the good news is we still got a chance to win the division.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to at Miss at Hey Mr. underscore Carter, if you happen to be listening to it, because he went out on Twitter today and calculated that the Redskins are still mathematically not only eligible for the playoffs, but mathematically eligible to win the NFC East.
That's how bad it is.
There's a universe where if the Redskins, I mean, it's obviously a bunch of ifs and buts, but it's mathematically possible. And it's not even like some crazy ass tie scenario. It's the Redskins win out, Dallas loses out, and I'm signing me up for Dallas losing out. I'm always about that. So the Redskins completely win every game remaining on their schedule, putting them at 7-9. Dallas has to lose every game on their schedule, which I believe would put them at 6-10, if I'm not mistaken. The Eagles have to lose every game except against Dallas, and the Giants have to lose every game except against Philadelphia. And if that happens, yes, and if that happens, the Redskins win the division.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying, and then at the end of the season, we're going to say, what was all that 1 in a million talk?
Yeah. Oh, man, that would be a disaster. That'd give Bruce all the firepower he needs.
Selling that hope, man. Selling that hope. He's still going to people, say we can still win the division.
Oh, man. The only hope we got is Geis and McLaurin seem to be both pretty good. That's the only hope, in my opinion, we got.
To borrow from Bill Simmons, if we decided that we need to cut Wendell Smallwood, I'll drive him to the airport so we can get Darius Geis some more reps.
Yeah, why is he playing?
I don't know. It's one of those myopic things where, like, he probably practices hard, so the coaches love him. And it's like, I get it. We'll always reward the guy who practices hard and doesn't play well over the guy who may not have the best practice habits, but actually would be, beneficial to the team.
I don't even think AP should play. It's like, dude, you're old, washed up. We should have traded you, but we're too dumb of an organization to do it. What's going on? Like, just let Geis be the guy and see what you got, and let him run and get comfortable with Geis or Haskins. And he's a good pass blocker. He runs freaking hard, and dude's got more speed than I realized. When he turned the corner against the Jets, he took off. So just play him.
We tend to forget it because you feel like he's been here forever. This is Geis' third game in the NFL?
Yeah,
like third.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, he's had 3 games, and he's only finished 2.
I was saying he's so early in his NFL development. Like, hey, maybe we should use him. There's less tread on that tire.
Yeah. Instead we're handing the ball off 70% of the time on first down to a guy that's been in the league since like Madden 02.
Doesn't matter how you do on those rushing attempts as long as you run the ball. Even if you hit the line of scrimmage and fall over, that's okay. Signed, Bill Callahan.
Yeah. Stupid.
All right. We'll call it a note on that enthusiastic tidbit. So thank you for everyone who's made it to this far. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to us on SoundCloud and or on iTunes, and follow us on SoundCloud. Hopefully we'll pick up a little more pace towards the end of the season and look ahead to the off season, because frankly that's all we have to look forward to, unless the craziest scenario of us winning the NFC East division actually materializes, which it won't. But until then, thank you so much, and we will catch you next time.